Hello, everybody, and welcome to one of the most exciting sessions here on the Discover Technata virtual roadshow. I am thrilled to be here with Mitel Networks. Mitel are a massive part of the history of what we're doing here in Canada North. So thrilled to bring them to you to run our computer science breakout room today. With us, I do have Jeroen de Witte. Jeroen, do you want to say hi to the group here and introduce yourself maybe?
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeroen de Witte. I'm a vice president in the R&D organization at Mitel, and I'm glad to meet with you all today.
Awesome. So those of us who know Mitel, let's assume people don't, Jeroen, who maybe are not in the park yet. Who are you guys? What is it you're doing? And what crazy problem are you and your teams of engineers solving in the market today?
So Mitel, at the basic sense, is a unified communications provider. So, some of you may have had a chance to meet with Terry Matthews a little earlier. He helped found the company back in the 1970s with his colleague, Michael Copeland. And they have the company has a long history in telecommunications, primarily as a PBX sector of the market, when it was, TDM based, but, it's been around since the 70s. The company's evolved. It's a much more modern form of enterprise communication based around VoIP technologies, but it's really about bringing an enterprise a unified communication experience. It's about bringing not only voice services, but messaging and chat, bringing the ability of presence, other mobility features that you have as an end user in an enterprise environment, video conferencing, which we all been experiencing a lot of in the current pandemic situation, right? And also bringing those kind of non-real-time elements of, voicemail, SMS, and things that you all would expect in a communications infrastructure solution. Wow. So, Mitel's been bringing these to multiple market segments, everything from the small, medium business segment, as we call it, or SMB, up to the very large enterprises. And we are a global service provider. We provide these technologies to, hundreds of countries around the world, each enabling it for their specific geographical requirements. And not only do we provide these technologies as an on-premise based offer, but what we're focusing now is really on delivering these solutions in the public cloud as a SaaS type offering.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess the evolution, and forgive me here, Jeroen, maybe I'm ignorant here, the telephones that maybe in office environments we all would have seen on desks 20, 30 years ago, or when we visited our parents in their offices, do the Mitel phones and your technology still look like that? Or are you seeing a big evolution in even the way, I guess, hardware looks and software performs with what you guys are doing?
Well, everybody has the concept of what a phone looks like. Yes, the phones have evolved, bigger displays, more intelligence. But in the new COVID and the pandemic environment, there's also been a big shift to moving to soft phone technology, phones that operate off your computing device. Similar to the video style of meetings we have here, we also have gone a lot more video based. So Mitel does have a video collaboration suite that we've been delivering as part of the pandemic. It's obviously seen a lot of use and a lot of interest.
Wow. Okay, so that's so interesting, Jeroen, and it was such a pleasure to have Sir Terry Matthews open up our keynote just earlier on this afternoon for Discover Technata, and he told us that just fantastic story about how somebody grows a company from 2 employees to, I think it was 6,000 at one point. In terms of an R&D team and what you do, and for our computer science and our engineering grads on the call today, I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about what R&D looks like at Mitel now. How many people are you guys? How do you divide the work? How does a typical day or week or quarter in the life of somebody in the Mitel R&D team look?
Well, it's obviously been a very busy time. But if I step back a little bit, so it's a global team, right? We have resources all over the world. If you look at Mitel, it's about 3,800 employees, give or take a little bit on the day. And of that 3,800, there's about 850 of those are specifically in the R&D organization.
Wow.
That's today, right? We are making significant investments in R&D in 2021. We probably have about 100 requisitions open now at a global level for R&D resources around the globe, just to fill in the spots on the first half of the year.
So that's going to take you to a company with 1,000 people in R&D.
Yeah, just short of 1,000. That is correct.
Incredible. Sorry to interrupt you. And so how do you manage that amount of R&D and staff and projects? How does that work?
Well, we have a lot of different roles within the R&D organization. So, at a global level, we have, various skills, various talents, right? When we're looking for resources, we try and make them fit for the ideal role that those individuals would suit, right? We hire hardware and software development teams. We have program and project managers. We have, if you're familiar with agile development methodologies, we have what's called Scrum Masters and product owners, right? And we have a wide range of disciplines to fill in other parts of the overall development cycle. And those roles exist at a global level. So we have, those roles are not specifically located at Canada, even though Canada is one of our largest R&D centers.
That's awesome. So in terms of, for the new grads on the call today, how does it look for a new engineer or a new computer science grad who decides they want to start a career in telecoms and work with a leader like Mitel? How does their first 30, 60, 90 days look when they join your org?
Well, the first part is obviously getting them set up with all their own computing infrastructure. Obviously, that's currently in a work from home environment. So that would arrive on a few days before your actual start date, if you're so selected, right? And then there's an onboarding process that we do through, about sort of setting up their own credentials, gaining access to the tool chain. And then typically what we try and do is we try and pair them up with somebody on a similar skill set, but a much more experienced individual, and have them develop into the team, start with some basic functions, basic development practices, depending on the role, right? And then grow them over those 30, 60, 90-day type intervals with more and more responsibility, and to a point where they become self-sufficient and they're held accountable for their own deliverables as a fully contributing member of the team.
What an awesome opportunity for a new grad to join. We've definitely heard on Discover Technata today about the startups in the tech park and our incubator ecosystem, but to understand what it's like to join a company of the size and power of Mitel is really exciting. And speaking of exciting, Jeroen, and maybe this is just me because I have not had a career in engineering yet, but you never know. I would love to know, I know you'd mentioned a little about video conferencing and some of the cloud-based stuff that you guys are doing, but what are some of your latest and greatest inventions, I'd say, from the Mitel sphere that maybe some of us on the call either we'd be using or familiar with today, or maybe our parents who are in corporate environments around the world might use? Give us some of the inside scoop into some of the exciting stuff.
Well, I guess probably the kind of the key programs that we have going on right now are around our next generation collaboration application. And collaboration, as I stated a little earlier, right, evolves around communication in different modalities, right? So there's chat, there's communicating through video, and there's communicating through voice, right? But then there's managing all of that experience around that modalities, right? So we want to talk about presence. Are you available to take a call? Are you tied up in a meeting, right? If you're tied up in a meeting, it's better maybe to hit you through a chat session than having an actual phone call.
And that can all be powered by Mitel. Sorry to interrupt you. That can all, whether it's chat or whether it's video or whether it's voice or even SMS, are you telling me that can all now be powered by Mitel?
That is correct. Now we do leverage infrastructure through third parties to enable it at a global level, but this is one single unified communication experience to manage at an enterprise level, right? So similar to experiences you have where you have an ecosystem on your cell phone, this is an ecosystem defined for the enterprise, and we bring that all together. Wow. Then we take it to the next level, right? So that's kind of your basic platform, right? We have now something also in development we call not a contact center. And why do I say not a contact center? Contact centers, you're all familiar with contact centers. They call you or you call them, depending on which direction you're going, right? But we wanted to build that in as part of the integrated enterprise communication center, so that as a business, you don't necessarily always have to have a dedicated contact center team, but you can leverage your resource pool. So as resources are available, they can potentially help participate in servicing customers, right? There are different business opportunities and different ways business can operate with this new technology that we're preparing to launch this summer.
Wow. So I guess I'm right in thinking, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I should say that through this incredible, powerful suite of Mitel offerings, I guess the office can now officially be anywhere. And us as employees, this year, if it's taught us nothing, it's that you and I are doing this from the comfort of our own home. So I guess this has been a really big year for Mitel with everybody switching to work from home and still needing those business grade applications. Has it just been insane for you guys during COVID?
So certainly when COVID took off, you're kind of, end of Q1 into Q2 last year, we did see a big shift. Obviously, a lot of shifting to work from home technology, software licensing and then such, right? We also saw the patterns of how our software is being used is also changing.
Right.
We had to adapt. We had certain assumptions on the usage patterns when we sized and scaled out systems. Those patterns change with COVID.
Right.
And they're now the new normal. So they now become embedded into our design practices. They're what we call use cases that we now develop as we move forward into planning of our new products and our new technologies.
Wow, that's really interesting. It sounds like for you guys, there's not really going to be a going back to pre-COVID. I'm guessing all of your innovation and your engineering from here forward is always going to build off what you guys have had to learn during COVID.
Absolutely.
I love it. So obviously we talked a little about Mitel and some of the cool stuff you guys are doing. Let's talk a bit about Canada North. You guys could have set up shop anywhere in the world. I know you're global and you have headquarters everywhere, but I think it's so special, certainly as a tech park, that you guys have always held on to your roots here in Canada's largest tech park. What does that mean for you and your teams, Jeroen? And what do you love? What do you and your teams love about being here in Canada North in Ottawa?
Well, it's a great place to live. It's the largest tech park in Canada.
Yeah.
Mitel started its roots here through Sir Terry Matthews.
Mhm.
So obviously this was his home, and this is where the company founded. It's has roots from other large tech firms prior to that. But it's a great place to work. It's a great place. As a new grad, you may not be looking to start a family immediately, but at some point, when that day presents itself, it's a great place to grow up with kids. The educational system for kids is great around here. There's lots of open and green space to leverage if you're into the outdoors. Obviously, recognize the various restaurants around the area. We have a big advantage. Starbucks is across the street right from the office, so that's really convenient as well.
Oh yeah. That's where all of our paychecks, I think, are going to be going post-COVID, when we can actually get out and have coffees.
Right. So, in downtown Ottawa, it's only about 20 minutes away if you're not from the area. So if you really want to get, a social night out with all the hot spots and nightclubs and whatnot, it's 20 minutes to downtown. It's a short night.
Awesome.
Not a
I
big.
love it. You couldn't have said it better. So Jeroen, here's a question I know we prepared before the interview, and I didn't give you this one because I really wanted to get an organic answer from you. How is your career? What did you study when you were in university? And how did you get from that day where you might have been a new grad in your fourth year and looking at that big wide world and kind of wondering where you were going to sit and where you were going to fit? Fast forward me only a couple of years, right, since you graduated, Jeroen?
Only a couple.
How did your career take you here? And what are some of those biggest lessons that you've had along the way?
So my career actually started Bell Northern Research. I was designing electronic circuits for various platforms, right from large class 5 switching systems to small PBXs for a system called Northstar, right? And then I transitioned from hardware engineering into various software and system engineering roles, continuing looking for new challenges, and as opportunities presented, pursuing those opportunities. I then made a shift into startup, and I did a few startups along the way. Startups are a great learning ground. There's no infrastructure. You got to build it all out yourself, especially when you're an early employee.
Mm-hmm.
They're great places to learn and really, understand, your skills, challenge you. I then spent a long time in developing solutions for public safety sector, specifically 911.
Wow.
And, it's a place where the company was very small, very agile, and through various acquisitions, it became part of several larger corporations, most notably Airbus and Motorola along the way. There were big projects there. I personally helped put a new 911 system in New York City post 9/11. It was a very learning project. It grew my leadership skills tremendously. It's a challenging work environment from a technology delivery perspective. It's a place where, if you don't deliver quality, people die. And
Right.
it helped ingrain some of my practices that I use now today in driving our software evolution and our methodologies and how we deliver software solutions in terms of quality.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
I've brought that to Mitel. Admittedly, I've only been with Mitel a short period of time, just over a year now. But I've really enjoyed the short time that I've been here. The company's afforded me lots of opportunities to grow already, and an opportunity to really take on a large portion of the R&D portfolio.
That's fantastic. So, Jeroen, tell me, how many people report into you now, or do you manage either directly or indirectly?
So under direct reporting structure, it's about 300 employees globally.
Wow.
And then there's indirect through offshoring, and that would probably adds another 100 or so in there. And then our QA resource pool is separate, but we work in a matrixed organizational structure. So,
Wow.
there's a lot of responsibility.
So as an engineer at heart, are you actually tinkering around in the lab now, connecting wires or writing code, or is a lot of your day connected, is managing the people that are doing that? Or do you still get to get your hands dirty occasionally?
Every once in a while, we get our hands dirty, validate the approach, especially when we're in front of customers that
That's awesome.
have challenges. I'd like to understand what we're communicating and why we're communicating it. So I will do a deep dive every once in a while into the technology itself, but a lot of it's about, operational R&D, as we call it.
Wow.
Supporting the 300 people and making sure they have what they need and removing their barriers so that they can be successful.
So cool. It really sounds like Mitel's an organization that supports growth. I know a lot of my close friends here in the park and associates like you, Jeroen, have really progressed through those Mitel ranks. So maybe we can start closing down this session. Just a question for you, if you can put yourself back in the shoes of our students on the call today who may be graduating in the next few months and just not quite sure, is high tech for me? Is a career in the private sector for me? Kind of where do I go from here? Why don't I ask you in your own words, Jeroen, why should they, why did you, and why would you, and why should they consider a career in high tech?
So a career in high tech is, it's a personal calling. I personally had the urge to join engineering skill set when I was building 8088 computers back in the day. Truly dating myself at this point. But you have to look at it's a place where it allows you to innovate, allows you a place to be somewhat entrepreneurial with the right environment. It's also an environment that allows you to build a baseline of skills that you can even provide and use in non-technical environments. The skill sets you learn in an engineering environment with the right community, with the right mentorship, are life-changing. I truly think it's a great place to be. Right. And technology has a big impact on our lives.
Right.
I always tell people that think about a life without a cell phone and 5G networks.
Yeah.
Our lives would be so much different. Right. And when I went to university, there was no such thing as a cell phone, barely existed. Now we can't live with it, live without it. Sorry. So at this point in time, it's a great place to work. It's a great time to influence technology. There's still lots of things that are out there to be explored. Artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, whatever your interest is, evolution of technology is not going to stop. There's still lots to deliver and make your imprint on. It's just finding those opportunities and how you can apply what you learn in a university environment and apply it to your passion.
That's so cool. So, Jeroen, if you hadn't been an engineer, what would you have done with your career?
I have no idea because I've always wanted to be an engineer.
Oh, well, that was probably the perfect answer. I'm sure a lot of our students who are with us today have invested, several years of their life following the same journey. So we do really appreciate you taking the chance to talk to us about your career and life at Mitel and, life in Canada's largest tech park. Jeroen, we're going to start closing the session down now. We are going to return for our closing keynote. But if there are any grads on the call today are really listening and wanting to connect with you, is there a way that they'd be able to reach out to you or connect to you to maybe discuss further or get your input on their career in tech? Would LinkedIn be
LinkedIn would be perfectly fine. They can just message me through LinkedIn as appropriate, or they can reach through the recruiters, Mitel recruiters that should be in the chat room now.
Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much, Jeroen. It's been a pleasure to meet you. I can't wait to see where the next decade of Mitel Networks goes. And hopefully there'll be some of our students from the call today working in some of your teams over the next year or two. And this might have been that seminar that really encouraged some of our students to take that leap and join Mitel Networks. So thank you again for joining. As Jeroen said, there are Mitel Networks employees here in the chat room. Do feel free to engage them. Also feel free to check out discovertechnata.com and have a look at our job board. You will see many open recs from Mitel on there, as well as their designated career page. The link is on their sponsor booth right here in Discover Technata. So on that, we're going to say goodbye and return to our closing keynote. Thanks again, Jeroen. Take care.